All right, everybody, welcome to another week of SpeedRunsLive Season 2. Happy to have you all here. I am Darkman78, and I am joined, of course, by Boney, as always, helping me out with the commentary.
Hey.
So, hi. And joining us this week as our special guest commentator, we have Chelny. Chelny, welcome.
Thanks. The snow's gone, so I was able to make it.
Excellent. So this week, our game is going to be Mega Man 3. So that's pretty awesome. Excited for that. It's a personal favorite of mine. Pretty fun game. I'm looking forward to see how the competitors are going to do. It's definitely a little bit different than the first 2 weeks. It's going to be a longer game, probably a harder game given the 1 week that they had to learn it. So it's going to be interesting to see what to expect. But without further ado, Boney, you want to kind of give us the update? What's going on with Season 2 so far?
Yeah, so we're about halfway into Season 2, and if anyone's new and doesn't know what Season 2 is, I'll just give a quick explanation. Basically, we're in the main phase of the season, I guess. We're in a 9-week series of games, basically. Every single week, we'll reveal a new game, and players will have about 1 week to learn that game, learn the route, get as good as they can at it as possible, and just to prepare for the upcoming race the following week. And we just kind of continue that pattern. For 9 weeks, we reveal a game, they grind it out, and so on and so on. Right now, we are in week 5, so we're about halfway through, and we, as Darkman said, we're at our longest game of the season so far, and it's going to be a good test for people, how they deal with longer games, arguably harder games than they've already played, so it's going to be a rough race today, but hopefully a good one, too.
Yeah. So, fortunately, we were able to kind of feature a variety of players to kind of get the perspective from all angles. We'll go into that a little bit. Without further ado, though, we already introduced Chelny, but Chelny, give us your take on Mega Man 3 as a Season 2 race. What are you gonna expect out of this race?
Well, this is a really difficult speed game because most people that are familiar with Mega Man 2, obviously being one of the more popular Mega Man games, if not obviously the most popular, this game has the slide, and it's the most incredibly important thing to master for the speed run. Since you move at twice the speed while you're sliding, it's important to be as often as possible sliding. So it's going to be a really key thing. Movement is the most important thing. The longer you can stay on the ground, the longer you can slide and so forth. So you're going to see that. I think the top runners are going to be, you're going to see them go for, sillier jumps and shorter slides just to try to get as much time moving at that speed as possible.
So yeah, you kind of talked about the slide and how important it is to the run. As a newer player who's only had like a week to learn this game, what do you think may trip them up that normally you wouldn't expect an experienced runner to kind of trip up on?
Well, I think this game has a lot of weird little idiosyncrasies. Like the slide, for example, for whatever reason, the game doesn't allow you to jump out of it for 8 frames. And that makes single block slides and shorter slides very, very dangerous, especially if they're near pits or spikes. So we could see some hiccups from some newer runners because of that, especially if they decide to go for some of the riskier strats, like we'll see here in a little bit with the Gemini single block room. It's a pretty notorious room because of how Gemini First used to be the main first stage of the speedrun. It's worth noting that this speedrun has had a few different routes. It started out for a while with top first runners, and then it switched over to Gemini First, and then to Magnet First, and now we've come full circle. We're actually back to top first. So just better routing has made this route again faster than the other 3, only by a few seconds, but over the course of a race that can definitely make a difference, as we saw even in last night's race, Cab and I tying. So I mean, just
oh yeah,
it can just be like that close, right? So yeah, that's going to be one of the biggest, I think, challenges for the new runners, I think, is getting adjusted to that. There's some other little things like not being able to shoot on the frame that you land on the ground, and things like that might actually catch people and thinking that they're getting inputs eaten, and in fact they are. So sort of planning around that for an experienced runner, they're used to it. but a newer runner might find that as a challenge.
Okay. Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of things to look out for as we kind of watch. So we have a couple of videos to show off, of course, as for those who have already watched season 2, kind of come to expect this. So some of the tricks you're going to be seeing throughout the run. So first we have the single block slides. So Chelney, what's going on?
Yeah, so like I was alluding to, like you see all these little slides here, the single block ones, they become really risky because if you do one like too far to the right of the block, if you don't have more than 8 frames, you will not actually be able to jump, and you'll just slide off of the block and down into the water, into the pit, and die. So they don't look that dangerous in some regard, but they actually are much harder in 3 than they are in 4 and 5, since you can jump out of your slide immediately in 4 and 5, whereas this game you can't. The other thing is lag management. This video you're seeing here is from a Gemini first route. So you're seeing that room completed with Buster. Some of the guys that are going to be doing top first or magnet first, they're going to be in this room with Shadowblade. And that'll actually give them an advantage because they'll actually be able to kill a few of the dragonflies, and that'll reduce some lag. That's another thing with this game. There's a lot of things that can cause lag in this game just because it's an old NES game. You're working off that hardware, so killing enemies becomes pretty important, and not overmashing and shooting too many shots to kill what you need to kill is also pretty important. And it's even worth noting that even the music adds to this lag, and we'll see the runners actually try to despawn the music in a couple spots.
Yeah, one of the things about this section here is just being off a little bit can really trip you up here and potentially lead to your death. Even if you're still alive and you just like maybe forgot to slide, or you just like started walking instead of sliding, that could potentially trip you up as well, because all of a sudden you're dealing with different lag because the enemies are on screen longer than you planned for. So now all of a sudden you have to plan for this like entirely different environment that you're just not used to. And for a runner that's only put a week into this game, that could easily trip you up. So look out for this room. It could definitely trip you up. This is in, of course, a Gemini Man stage.
Yeah, 3 is also like, it's not like if you've seen a 1 or a 2 speedrun, you've seen how very heavily that game has like zips, like the glitches for zipping through stages. 3 doesn't have very many zips. In fact, there is one sort of here, you can see it here in this little single block where you kind of see this little wiggle coming up like right here, and it's so quick, and if you wiggle really fast, you can actually skip that one block. I don't know if we'll see too many runners go for that because it's kind of risky. Obviously, if you miss it, you fall into the water. But there's a couple other little mini zips like that in the run. So they're not huge time saves like you see in 1 and 2, but they'll save, half second here or, maybe a couple seconds there. So it's worth going for if you can get them.
All right. So now we have our second video. This is the Yellow Devil quick kill. So what the heck is going on here, gentlemen?
Yeah, so, I mean, if you're familiar with Mega Man, you know what the Yellow Devil is. You know this fight. It's pretty notoriously put into most of the Mega Man games, if not almost all of them. And basically, if you know the fight, you know that his eye appears and he's only vulnerable for, a short amount of time, and then these blocks will fly around the room and you gotta dodge again. So the idea behind this fight is to take damage and utilize your invincibility frames to mash Shadow Blades upward into his eyeball as fast as you can. He takes 3 damage from a Shadow Blade, so it takes 10 blades to actually kill him. And so the idea here is to try to kill him in 1 cycle. If you miss this kill, it costs you about 18 seconds. So pretty critical when you're in a race setting to get a strat down for this fight, to do this in 1 cycle. Otherwise, you're taking a pretty substantial time loss. So we call this kill the easy double kill thanks to VSON. And yeah, it's going to be a pretty critical moment for a lot of the late game part of this run.
Yeah, I should definitely expect to see this out of our 2 top competitors, which we'll go into in a minute. I'll be curious to see how the newer competitors do, whether they're able to actually pull this off. So the 18 seconds is no joke. Even when you're, 5-10 minutes behind the world record, those 18 seconds are definitely valuable.
Yeah, and like you said, it is kind of a tough trick. I think Fasta, who has the record, he mentioned how like he had a pretty good time before he ever actually even got this in a run. I think he had like a 35. So for a new runner who's only been playing for a week, if they go for it and get it, that's a pretty amazing thing. Like it's not that hard to learn, but it does require some pretty tight mashing, making sure you're utilizing your invincibility frames correctly to get the maximum number of Shadow Blades in.
Yeah, and it should be noted, this is technically not even Yellow Devil's weakness. Hard Knuckle is supposed to be the actual weakness.
That's
so,
true.
I'd be curious to see if any of the competitors actually opt to do that, if they even know. So
I hope they don't use hard knuckle. It's not a good weapon.
Well, now I want to see it.
it's pretty fun. All right, so moving on to our final video, we have the Wily 3 kill. So what is going on here?
Everybody sort of watch what happens here and try to just sort of absorb what's happening, because this is a really short video. Basically, if you want to see the exact, like, what's happening is we're just jumping up on coil, we're shooting a bullet, and we're menuing to top spin. And that's really all it is. The boss's weakness is top, and this game is programmed so that you actually can't menu while there is any bullets or ammunition on screen. But for whatever reason, they forgot to code that in for the rush weapons. So if you see on coil, we can actually pause with a lemon on screen, even though we're not supposed to be able to. And by changing to a different weapon, that bullet will actually take on the properties of the weapon you change to. So that bullet then becomes a top spin bullet. And since top spin has a piercing property, it will hit the holograph Mega Man on every single frame that it hits. It's in his hitbox, and so it looks like it insta-kills him. It's a really neat trick, looks really flashy, and really confusing if you don't really know what's going on. So you might see this if anybody's playing on Mega Man 3 as opposed to Rockman 3. You might also see this bullet transfer on the Gamma fight at the end of the game, but this is the most common one. You'll see it no matter which game version people are playing.
All right, so yeah, so those are kind of the tricks you will expect to see throughout the run. Appreciate Chelney, you making those videos.
Yeah, no problem.
So you just talked about version differences, of course. Is there really a significant difference between playing the English and Japanese version?
There really isn't a huge difference. In some regard, the game is better programmed for safety of soft locks in the American version. However, realistically, it's not perfect because you can still soft lock in a fight with Hardman or Gemini Man, depending on how the two forms sort of die. It's kind of awkward how it works, but realistically, time difference wise, they're almost the same. Normally, you would expect the Japanese version to be faster on text, but it's actually interesting that this game is actually faster text wise on the English version. But there are a couple of little minor differences like that, and a couple of rooms where they changed a couple blocks around just to prevent soft locks that they discovered between the two releases. And yeah, so actually, one of the reasons why you might see the different Gamma kill is because of one of the differences, actually, because in Rockman 3, if you're in invincibility frames when you pause, when you unpause, you'll still be in invincibility frames. In Mega Man 3, they actually took that out. So when you unpause, you lose your iframes and you'll get hit again immediately if you're in like an enemy or something. So just minor things like that, but nothing too huge. Like typically a really good run of a Mega Man 3 versus a Rockman 3 run, Mega Man 3 would be maybe a second and a half slower if performed at the same level. So it's really not going to be a huge difference maker, I don't think, in this race.
Okay. For those not familiar, a soft lock is basically when you essentially get stuck. You can't do anything. You know, you're just sitting there. You know, maybe you're like walking in a room or something and you can't get out of it. Or maybe you can't actually move. Like Mega Man is just stuck. And that's what a soft lock is. So they would have no choice but to reset the game, password to the last point. So it's really, really, really bad to have a soft lock in a race or just a run in general. So yeah, let's finally wrap it up, our pre-show with our competitors here. So Chelney, tell me about our top two competitors, Fast, that's CC, and Colonel Fatso.
So these are ranked number 1 and number 3 in the world. Very, very talented runners. Fatso actually came from an MMX background, very strong. If you've watched any of the GDQs, you've probably seen him participate in the X any % races. I think he played in the X any % one this past AGDQ. And Fasta also participated in the 1-3 Mega Man relay. His team unfortunately did not win. Team Roll took that one, but he's the record holder of this game, and you can expect high play no matter when he picks it up. So yeah, they'll be flying. Hopefully we'll be looking for 34 times out of them.
Hope so. Be good to see. I know they've had a few races over the last week, and they've been pretty close. So curious to see who takes it, or maybe somebody that's not featured takes it. We'll see. So, Bonnie, tell me about our bottom two competitors, Ramses and St. Joe.
Yep, so our other two are brand new to the game as of the last week, and they're actually top two on the season leaderboards right now, so they're doing very well overall. So we have St. Joe, who has a 47 something in this game. Pretty good time. He's about, 13 minutes-ish behind our best players, and considering the length of the game, it's actually pretty good. And then, to no one's surprise, we have Ramses, who is leading the season and actually has a high 42. So he's just killing it. He seems to be really good at every game and is definitely a favorite in the season right now. So yeah, we expect them to do quite well. Not beat our top runners, of course, just due to the experience difference, but they'll put in a good showing, and we'll see a good contrast of experience in this game, I think, between our 4 players today.
Absolutely. And you can kind of see what's going on with our season 2 leaderboard. Remember, top 16 get into the playoffs. So there's a lot of opportunity for even somebody who hasn't even begun to race the games. They can start joining like as of this week. Just like join the race right now if you're able to. If not, that's okay, because we still have 4 more races after this. So you could get in, sneak in that top 16, and all of a sudden you find yourself in the playoffs with a chance to win our grand prize.
A switch.
A switch. Yeah, so we have, of course, prizes going out to our top 4 competitors, and we do have weekly prizes on the line. So the best racer out of the races for the week will win a $20 Steam gift card. So even our competitors like Fast and Fatsa, who haven't entered in a race to date, they still have something to play for. So it'd be interesting to see who comes out on top. So without further ado, Bo, do you have any final questions for Chelmy?
No, they'll come during the race. I'll probably leave commentary to you two. You guys know Mega Man more than I do. But if I see anything interesting, I'll try to represent the chat and ask some questions, because, there's a lot going on in this game.
Cool. All right. So we are then, of course, going to wrap it up for our pre-show. Once again, thank you very much, Chelmy, for doing commentary for us this week.
You bet.
And we are going to go ahead and take a quick break while we get set up for the race. So the race will be starting at 2 o'clock Eastern, which is in another 13-ish minutes. So stick around, hang out, and we will be back shortly.
Hello.
Hey, we're back.
We did it.
Where's Darkman? We don't need him.
I mean,
All right, I think we're about ready to go very shortly. I think I don't know who's gonna win the race. Who y'all got?
I
we'll
mean,
go with fast.
are we gonna make a speedrunning bet on this, Darkman?
Oh,
Ooh.
juicy.
Should we say obviously winner gets to pick a game for the other person? I'm gonna pick Fatso. Just saying.
I like
I gotta
it.
go with my Canadian boy.
I don't know if we have a bet, but I like it. All right, I'll take Prissy. I'm not in the bet, but I'm gonna pick Prissy just for
Okay.
variety.
All right, sounds
Who
good.
isn't on stream? But
All right, so we're off. Sheldon,
Yeah,
we have 2 different routes. What the heck is going on?
we do. So like I mentioned in the pregame, there has been quite a difference and change in the routes over the last 5 years, really. The 2 routes you're seeing right now, the one is the fastest route, which is the one you're seeing Fasta and Colonel taking. They're doing top first. It's the fastest route. It's got some very difficult platforming in the next stage, but it's about 5 to 6 seconds faster, I believe, than Magnet First. Magnet First is actually a route that didn't happen until Fasta started speedrunning the game. He decided that Gemini First was too hard for him, and so decided to just make his own route, and it ended up being faster in the end. So it's a much easier route, especially for newer runners, and so you're going to see both our 2 other runners doing Magnet First here. The bulk of the time save over Magnet First from top first is that you have Rush Jet when you get to Magnet, and so you don't have to do these Yoku block platforms that you're seeing those 2 guys do right now. So that's one of the main reasons why it's a better route.
As you can kind of see with the top end stage, though, there's a ton of mashing involved in this stage. Like as you saw earlier with Fast and Fatso killing the cats, those require 10 bullets. That's right, 10 bullets in order to kill the cat with the Buster. So there's quite a lot going on here. So even if you do decide to do the route, the top man first route, it requires pretty advanced play even to utilize those time savings.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult. You typically want to be killing the cat and getting on the ledge that the cat is sitting on in about 3 jumps, but if you miss that, Fasta getting an extra cycle there from top, so already you can see Fatso pulling ahead a little bit with that 1 less cycle. And then down from Magnet. Magnet actually, the reason Magnet and Top are really good route choices is because they're the only Robot Masters that take double damage from the Buster. So you see they're actually doing 2 damage with the Buster shot on these bosses. Magnet's a little bit more... you can have more randomness hit you hard, and you can lose time if he jumps a lot up in the air, because you obviously can't hit him when he's up there. So that's sort of why, another reason why top first is a little bit nicer too, because it's more consistent in your opening, since the top fight is always the same every time. And we saw the Magnet first runners do one already in the Magnet stage, but here's another proto fight here. First ones for Fatso and Fasta. Really nice fight there from Fatso. Fasta having a little bit of issues, has to go back and get behind Proto again. But yeah, nice job. This dark room, it's the enemies at the top of the screen. They turn the room dark, so you kind of have to just have the rooms sort of like know what the layout is, and then you can kind of remember where to slide and where to jump, where to shoot. It's a really easy room to actually memorize, especially if you already had some familiarity with the game, because platforms are always typically based on, you know, tile length and all that stuff. So it's not too hard to like get yourself through that room. And based on where the enemies spawn as you walk them into the room, you can sort of see where the floors are. This is the room that I mentioned. This Fatso gets through it really nicely. Fasta takes a couple spots just a little bit safer, just to make sure that he doesn't fall into the pits while trying to go through the parachutes.
So yeah, an important thing about this Shadow Man fight here is you see they're using top spin, which is Shadow Man's weakness. However, if you do it incorrectly, which is something you could very well see some of the lesser experienced competitors doing, you'll end up eating through all of your top bullet or top ammo, which is really bad because Shadow Man is one of the hardest fights to Buster in this game. So be curious to see how the competitors do in the Shadow Man fight. Basically what you want to do is if you get hit, you do not want to face away from him, because that is what basically eats all your ammo.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. It's being inside of his hitbox while you're spinning starts to drain the ammo. So if you're in iframes and he's in iframes, which means you can't hit him, your ammo will just disappear. So yeah, it's really a risky thing you got to be careful of. One of the nice things about Top First, though, in a way, is that the 3 hardest stages for the 8 Robot Masters are first. So you get like the hardest stages out of the way very early, and then you have some time to sort of relax a bit. Gemini, here you're going to see Fatso try to set up a zip. Hopefully he's already got the music despawned by skipping those proto cutscene there, and he gets the zip. Really nice there. So he's utilizing the tadpole. As the tadpole sort of floats out, he takes damage at a very specific time, and it just sort of pushes him through the blocks and onward. You're not going to really see any other zips other than that one here in this run. Like I said earlier in the pregame, it's not as zip heavy like 1 and 2 are, so that's just one of the few ones in this game, and it's kind of a neat little trick. Okay, into that single block room that we mentioned earlier. We'll see how Fatso and Fasta do here. Not going for the wiggle. That's probably a good choice there from Fatso. Fasta also not doing it. But you can see, again, they're on Shadow Blade. They're killing a few of these dragonflies, just trying to reduce, again, some of the lag that they generate.
And on the bottom too, you can kind of see both of our newer players on top. You get to see just how different it is doing top with Magnet. It just allows you to kill these like cats, for instance, which are going to come up a lot faster than with the Buster.
Yeah, it only takes 5 magnets, so they go down pretty quick. Fatso doesn't quite get the fight he wanted, but he's alive, and Fasta unfortunately isn't, so this is going to be a pretty sizable lead now that he's going to get, because that's probably a good 20 to 30 second death there from Fasta. Maybe wondering why we're fighting Gemini with Shadow and not with Snake. It's because this game actually has 2 closed loop weakness orders. It's kind of weird that way. There's a loop of the Snake, Needle, and Gemini, the 3, and then the other 5 Robot Masters all have a closed loop as well. So at some point, you have to fight a Robot Master with a soft weakness, or a weakness that, does more than 1 damage, but it's not going to do like 4 damage, so. So Fatso getting some breathing room there from that death, the unfortunate one there. And now you're seeing a much faster top fight by these guys that did the Magnet Burst route, because Hard Knuckle takes 4 Hard Knuckles to kill top. He just melts. Something to note also, these boss fights, so typically you want to be killing bosses, not only killing them so that they die in the center of the room, but also so that you are sort of stationed somewhere in the middle of the room, because the fanfare won't start until all the sprites from the boss's death leave the screen. So a center kill is really good because the sprites all sort of leave at the same time, and that's the best place for them to all sort of leave very quickly. And you see that they're trying to situate themselves so that they're standing in the middle, because once the boss dies, you lose control of Mega Man in this game. So, and since Mega Man walks to the center after every boss kill, it can be a pretty big time loss if you're killing him in a corner or something. Really fast needle kills here with the Gemini laser. Again, only 4 lasers to kill Needle Man, so it's a very fast fight, as long as you don't miss.
Because if you do...
Yeah.
You're just sitting there, just watching your laser go around the wall and stream.
Yeah, because like we mentioned, you can't pause weapons off screen in this game, so if you miss a laser, it's just going to go around the room and bounce and hit and cause more slowdown, because, again, old hardware. This game is just not quite set up perfectly for the NES. I think if this game had a little bit better hardware, it would have ran a little better, but unfortunately 3 is one of the laggier of the series.
So you're seeing on the bottom too with Ramses and St. Joe about to get there, how much easier this section is. You saw earlier Fatso had to use top spin to get through the Power C section. Here it's just fire a magnet and kills everything. Don't have to worry about anything, just moves you along very casually. So this is kind of the power of the magnet weapon, and this is what the power of the magnet route first is. It just allows you to have this weapon which is super strong and allows you to get through a lot of places which are normally not as easy.
Did you see that jump? Joe jumped over a shoe. That was pretty impressive.
Did he? I didn't even see.
That was pretty good. That's actually a really tight jump. And usually we kill all the little hoppers in that room, but that was pretty impressive. Fasta and Fatso are into Snake, and yeah, like you mentioned, the magnet missile is just really handy for tracking enemies. So the magnet first route, it sort of utilizes that for a lot of different rooms, so that you can kill more enemies and kill them easily as well. So you can keep your movement going. Because again, we want to be sliding as much as we can. Skipping these mini bosses because they don't actually halt your path if you just fly over them, which is really, really nice. We're just gonna see these guys fly to the end of the stage. Oh, these Pogo guys are giving Fasta a hard time. I guess one sort of riskier thing with the magnet first route is you see Gemini a lot later, and this is probably the hardest 8 Robot Master stage. So in a race, it doesn't really matter because you have to play all the stages anyway. But if you were doing like attempts, it's kind of scary to have a hard stage this far into the run. See if these guys can potentially set up the zip. Oh, no, he's not going for it. He's just gonna kill the tadpoles and move on. And like you said, like, you can see there, like, not doing the zip is not a huge time loss. Like, the zips in this game really aren't game-breakingly, you know, if you don't get them, it's not like you're gonna have a terrible, terrible run.
Yep. Yeah, the optimization from this game comes from, you know, how can I reduce lag? How can I get through sections with my slide optimally? Like, that sort of thing. The slide is a very hard utility to master. You know, it's a very powerful, of course. It allows you to save so much time, but it also allows you to lose so much time if you're just not, like, sliding very well.
Yeah, if you're not using it to your advantage while other runners are, obviously, then that's going to be pretty detrimental to your run. So,
yeah, tell me.
Oh,
Are you gonna make the call?
Am I gonna make the call? No.
Oh, Ramses made the call.
Oh, I did. Okay, yeah, there it is. Oh, he fell down. He's got lots of ammo, thankfully. So Rush Marine's kind of unique in this game. You can jump with him out of water. It's kind of strange.
It's
But,
great.
pretty goofy and really a lot safer to do this room. And it looks like Joe's also doing the same thing.
It's
so.
my favorite backup strat in, like, all of, like, all of, like, speedrunning. It's so good.
Yeah, a lot safer than doing the single blocks, because those single block slides are really tough. We also just saw Fatso go through that room, the Yoku room, again with Jet. You're about to see Fasta do the same thing. So these guys don't need to do the Yoku puzzles, they can just fly right over, and that's another sort of huge time save of this route. So Fatso into Magnet first, or Magnet fight here. Doesn't get the good pattern, unfortunately, but gets the standard kill, so. Still maintains a pretty solid lead over Fasta here. And Joe and Ramses getting through Gemini, looks like, pretty easily. Just taking the Gemini fight really safe there. He does bonk into him, though. He's having a little bit of issues trying to hit him. He's gonna get a laser. Okay, he should be fine, hopefully, right?
Maybe? Okay. That was a tight one.
Sometimes, because you can only fire one Shadow Blade at a time. So, I mean, sometimes if you miss, it can just really throw you off. And since also, kind of like Metal Blade, how it, like, holds you to the ground when you shoot. If you're not, like, in the air when you shoot, it can also kind of, like, throw off your movement. So, yeah, kind of a little bit of a scary moment there, but he's through, so it's all good.
And you could kind of see, if you're watching Saint Joe's screen, just like when the Gemini laser's out, it's just all sorts of lag breaks loose. It's a really laggy weapon.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be your laser. It can be Gemini's laser, and it's just not gonna help.
Just to update the chat on progress, I think Fatso is like a 30-second-ish lead on Fast, probably. Maybe a bit more now, I'm not sure. And Ramses and Joe are definitely behind. We'll have a better idea of exactly how much once they get to the Wily stages, or whatever you even call them in this game. Yeah, they're taking a different route.
So, Hardman stage is actually kind of neat, because it's the only stage in the game that has no pits or spikes. So the only way you die here is by taking damage over time, and it's kind of a neat difference that way. Because of that fact, they put a lot of things in your way, like, that would typically slow you down, like these Met Dozers and the monkeys, and they all have a lot of health, and you have to, like, do a lot of mashing or something to sort of, you know, get past them as fast as you can, but and then you have the weird proto fight where the ground isn't flat. It's got that sort of raised floor, kind of like the Pharaoh Man room in 4. And so this fight is a little bit trickier as well.
So Reds just have a fairly good needle fight. Let's see if St. Joe can also have a good needle fight.
Yeah, the nice thing about Needle is you can actually get right up in his face when the fight starts before he actually does anything, because his first action will be when you press the B button. And unfortunately, there you see it. He hit like an A plus B like as soon as he, or he shot as soon as he like hit the A button, and unfortunately he shot right underneath Needle. And there's a couple mini Nadua lasers there, unfortunately, bouncing around the room. So
he did have to E-Tank there, which is interesting, because he got an E-Tank that normally most people don't get, and I'm assuming he got it for like the later stages, because some of the dock stages later on can be quite challenging or hard E-Tanks. So I'd be curious to see if that maybe potentially poses an issue for him.
Yeah, the one nice thing kind of even for starting out even new with this game is that no matter what route you take, there's an E-Tank that's in your way that you have to pick up. So for newer runners, it's kind of nice because there's always that E-Tank that's in your back pocket if something does go wrong. And there's really, there's a couple other ones that are really not that far out of the way that are really easy to grab with very minimal time loss. So it's a pretty, I'd say, beginner-friendly run, honestly.
And just to update everybody, we do have racers off stream. This is, of course, a big race. We have about 30 people in the race in total. These are just the 4 people that you're seeing. Hopefully we'll be able to show a few more people after our 4 competitors are done.
Fatso's actually barreling down on his final Robot Master kill here, so it looks like he's got a 16 set in stone here, which is pretty nice. He should be, I mean, this is a 16:26. That's a great 8 robot time. Like, this is easy 34 pace for him right now, so really, really nice start. And honestly, Fasta, where he is right now, even with the death, I mean, this is still going to be a 16 also. So, I mean, that's, you can't really complain too much. I mean, I know he probably wants the death back, but still 16. Still 34 pace.
Must be nice to be on 34 pace with the death.
Yeah, I would think so. I guess I would never really mention. I mentioned that Fasta has the record. His PB in this game is a 33:46, which is a really strong time. Still the only runner in the world to have a sub 34 time. And Fatso's time is a 34:14, I want to say.
So 17.
17? Okay. So he's a bit back in PBs, but Fatso's consistency is really strong. So. And it's clearly showing here so far in this race. So these guys are into the what's called the dock stages. You basically are going back to 4 of the stages you've already visited, and in them you're going to fight 2 of the Mega Man 2 Robot Masters. It's kind of like a refight almost from a previous game, kind of a callback. It's kind of neat. It's the only game they do this in really until like Mega Man 10, I think. So kind of a cool concept. This stage they're in right now, Doc Gemini, is probably, if you don't think it is, you typically think it's up there in the top 3 for sure of the hardest stages in the game. It's a very difficult stage. There's a lot of really small time saves that you can get if you want to risk it. And one of those rooms is the first room, and another one is this room that Fatso's coming up to right now, is this long water room with all the spikes. Again, we want to be sliding as best we can, so riding on rush is slow. And so you're going to see these guys taking damage boosts, killing again as many enemies as possible to reduce as much lag, and just trying to use those invincibility frames to slide on spikes.
Yeah, and there is, it doesn't matter what order you do the dock stages in, because you have all the weaknesses. You're not getting new weapons from killing new bosses, so it's just a matter of preference. Most of the top runners do the route that you're seeing Fast and Fasta do, because, like Chelmy was saying, Gemini is considered the hardest of the 4, so they basically do it in order of difficulty.
Yeah, that's what most people will do.
but I would expect some of our runners like Ramses and Sejo, for instance, they may struggle on like another dock stage more so than the others, so they may very well do a different order.
Yeah, it's very possible. It just comes down to preference. I mean, for a lot of people, Ramses got a nice low 19.8 robot time there, so looks like he's well, I mean, based on that time and what I think I saw his PB is, that should be pretty on par / PB pace still for him, so that's pretty good. What can you ask for in a race more than that, right?
I think Ramses is PB'd in like almost every single race he's joined.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I don't know if we like whose audio do we have on stream actually? I'm not sure who's actually on.
That's a good question.
If it is either Fasta or Fatso's, you're gonna see that they're gonna despawn the music in this first half. So this stage is gonna sound awfully quiet. And again, that's to save on some slowdown and lag frames. It's actually saves like 2.5 to 3 seconds to despawn the music in this stage, so it's pretty critical when you're fighting for time.
Yeah, we did have Fatso's audio on stream, and he did get a despawn.
Yeah, so you could definitely hear that. The reason that happens, just because I never actually explained it, is he's taking a death on the frame that he transitions the screen. By setting that up, the game plays the death sound like because it thought you died. However, because you're transitioning, it doesn't actually kill you. So that's actually what's happening, just in case anybody wanted to sort of figure out what was going on.
So it looks like with our bottom two racers, Ramses took a death, and all of a sudden he and Sejo virtually tied.
Yeah, very, very close here.
This is a very difficult screen, this first screen at Doc Gemini. It is one of the hardest screens in the game, in my opinion. Just having to get through everything super fast and just not dying from one of those idiots up top.
Fatso showing off the sprite glitch. He turned into a needle. Shoutouts to Prissy on that one. Doesn't save any time, it just looks super weird.
Oh, swag.
Yeah. Gets his double hit on heat, that's good. If you hit heat on the first frame he comes out of his charge, you can he won't actually reactivate to a new charge, and you can hit him a second time. Yeah, these two dock stages that Fatso is now through, they're definitely, I think, the most difficult, and that's why you see almost everybody do them first. A pretty common route through the dock stages is the one that you're seeing them take. It's the Gemini, Shadow, Needle, and then Spark. But we may see some people swap it around a bit, like if they think they want to get through with the, if they've still got their E-Tank from Hardman or something, and, Quickman's at the end of Spark, and if you're not comfortable with that fight, that can be a very scary fight, because Quickman does 8 damage with his body, so I know we've seen experienced runners take deaths to Quick, so I mean, it's something that we might see, some different routing here. But once the guys get to Wily, obviously the routes will all converge, if there are any differences. Right now, they're all taking the same, which is really, really nice. Thanks, guys. So Needleman, we fight, or in Needle stage, we fight Airman and Crashman. This stage kind of has one of the worst mechanics of the entire video game, and that's they put this really long flying section after this fight. And for a casual runner, this is just an awful room, because if anywhere after this room you take a death, there's a very strong chance that you do not have enough jet to finish the room a second time, depending on if you are jumping off the top of the screen like you're seeing Fatso do, because you use a lot of ammo just to get through it once. By jumping off of Rush, like Fatso's doing here, not only is he jumping off screen to remove his sprite and reduce some lag, but he's also saving ammo, because you only consume ammo when you stand on Rush. So it's pretty nice to be able to jump off the top of the screen. The only thing they have to worry about is when you do jump off the top, you actually do screen wrap to the bottom. So if an enemy comes down really low and they jump too high, they'll actually jump and get hit by the enemy at the bottom of the screen. So something they have to sort of be a little bit aware of, but ultimately the goal of that room is just to try to reduce lag and try to despawn those dragonflies off the left.
Yeah, it should be noted, this is really very much a gauntlet, because as you can see where they began the rush jet section, that's the checkpoint. So, if you end up taking a few too many hits, maybe you take a hit to the flying Met, you're going to end up dying, and that's going to set you back a long way. So I would expect this section to kind of get trouble for a lot of the inexperienced runners.
Mm-hmm. And Fast has made up a pretty nice chunk actually here so far in dock stages on Fatso. I'd say maybe only 20 to 25 behind now. Hard to say. I'm just estimating. Gets a nice fight too. Those center kills, man. Over the span of the run, they definitely save time. So one dock stage to go.
Do you think Fast is gonna go for it?
The MCon?
The despawn.
The despawn.
The music despawn.
If he gets the safe pixel, there's a way to despawn the music in this stage also. It doesn't save as much time, and it's a little more risky because the spot it happens is right after the Metal Man fight and the long drop. And if you die, you go back to the beginning of the stage. So it's pretty risky, and there's 2 pixels that work. One that has like a really high chance of working, but if it fails, it kills you. And the other one has a 50-50 chance, but if you miss it, you don't die. So if he gets the 50-50 pixel, definitely he's going to go for it, because there's no risk. But if he gets the other one, I highly doubt it. Fatso definitely doesn't have any setup for it, so he's just going to fall and not worry about it. Oh, he tried, looks like he tried the second screen setup.
Oh, he tried.
So, again, getting the despawn on the music here, it only saves maybe about a second and a half instead of, like, because it's just, there's not a lot of stage after that point, in comparison to how long the one in Dock Shadow is.
The Fast did get it.
Nice. So you'll see his room here is a little bit quicker. He'll pick up a little more time again on Fast. Just a little bit less slowdown in this room with all these enemies. Like, they're just everywhere. Gotta watch out for this drop. No drop? Or did he? Yeah, he got one, but he didn't.
So yeah, the challenging thing about Doc Quick here, something that would give some of our other competitors trouble, is his quick shots do only 2 damage to you, but actually running into Quick Man, which is very easy because look how fast he is, does about 8 damage. So you have to be really careful, just try to basically fire your snakes while just not getting dumped on by Quick Man.
Yeah. It's a neat little thing you're going to see the guys do after they beat... Oh, we didn't see it from Fatso. Watch Fasta's Breakman fight here. After he defeats Proto, you're going to see him actually pause, and it'll actually skip Mega Man's teleport out of the screen, and the game will just fade out. So that's what that little pause is there. It's kind of a neat little thing, I think, that Triwave found fairly recently.
And I would be remiss to not say shoutouts to IBM Computing.
Is that a Mr. Cab thing? I feel like that started from Mr. Cab.
He kind of. It was more of a joint effort between me and Cab.
You're the pushers.
Yeah.
Alright, so we're into the Wily stages now. These stages are not necessarily difficult if you want to play them fairly safe and straightforward. There are, again, obviously, as always, these little tiny slides. Fatso went for one of them already, a little double there. Ooh. He has to sort of back out there from that drop on the second one, but those are some pretty risky slides that he went for, that first one's. He's definitely not chickening out. Fasta, on the other hand, definitely chickening out because he doesn't want to take another death here. He's making up ground. There's no reason to go for something like that and take another death here. So
yeah, it should be noted, there's definitely not as much time to save in the Wily stages. They're all fairly short. Of course, there's some choke points like the Yellow Devil kill, which we mentioned at the pre-show, which we'll talk about, of course, again. But other than that, the refights, you can definitely make up some time there. But other than that, there's really not a whole lot of time to save, so it'll be interesting to see if Fast can still catch up to Fatso.
So Joe actually just had one of those screen wrap hits that I talked about earlier. Kind of, it's so strange to like see yourself jump off screen and all of a sudden you get knocked down because you got hit. All right, so we got the Kamigoro Maker here. This guy has a couple different things he can do. He's got 4 different timings of when he can release the turtles. And we want to see obviously the fastest 2. If he moves to the right, he gives you a good pattern. If he moves to the left, he gives you a bad pattern. And just based on RNG, you can see the time difference as these guys are practically synced again.
That happened very fast.
Yeah, the difference between a good pattern and a bad pattern, it can happen that quickly. And so definitely the largest RNG factor of this run is that fight. And just showing you there, that's exactly what can happen.
I did say there weren't that many spots, but that was one of them.
It's definitely the big one.
Every game has something.
So these guys are now barreling down on the yellow. This stage is kind of neat because it has no checkpoints. So a death anywhere, even in the Yellow Devil fight,
Right there!
right there, will send Fasta all the way to the back, again, right to the beginning of the stage. So that's a pretty punishing death right there. Really unfortunate. So now, at this point, with a death like that this late, Fatso's kind of going to need to make a pretty big mistake. And there's not a lot of game left for that to happen, but we'll see. A miss Yellow Devil cycle here could help him out. But he gets the easier kill, so it's looking not so hot, but we'll see. There's still you know, death-wise, there's not a lot of options for deaths left, but you know, time loss can definitely come from different fights. Ramses finishing off Metal, so he's coming into the later half of Spark. This is their last dock stage, between him and Joe.
Yeah, I've been kind of watching Ramses. He's had a really solid dock stages aside from the early death in Gemini. He's been really flying through this game for somebody who's only been playing it for a week.
So there you see Fasta misses the kill by one hit, and now he has to watch the Yellow Devil slowly go across the screen and form on the other side. This is an 18-second time loss, so kind of what he needed to happen to Fatso, unfortunately, and he got it too. So missing it by one is kind of painful. Ooh, Fatso didn't get the damage transfer from his rush bullet, so he had to quickly slide up and spin holograph Mega Man. So Fatso is now going into his the refight stage here. The only thing he has to worry about sort of is getting past those golems. He did. He's got lots of health to deal with this, so it's all good. The refights are pretty straightforward. You're gonna see a lot of less menus than you would expect. In a lot of Mega Man games, you're gonna pull for each Robot Master, but in this game, there's a lot of shared weaknesses, and there's a lot of weaknesses where the bosses are actually weak to their own weapon. Like Gemini is weak to Gemini, and Needle is actually kind of weak to Needle, and stuff like that. Ooh, there's that top glitch that you mentioned earlier, Darkman.
The classic.
Yeah, so there you see Fatso switching to Shadow Blade, because Shadow is also weak to Shadow. So now his route through the fights are going to be a little bit different. Instead of ending with Spark, he's going to go to Spark right now, and then head over to Magnet. It's just going to change up his route through the capsules. It's not a huge deal, though. Gets a nice fight there from Magnet. Fasta's just getting into the capsule room here, so Fatso's got a pretty sizable lead. The refights in this game are actually pretty short, like just over 2 minutes long if you have a really good refight. So it's not like some of the other games where there's just a massive amount of RNG. There's just these bosses are so consistent because they die so fast. Oh, there's a bit of a Nadua laser there, though.
My
have to
favorite.
wait for that laser. Ooh, and he takes a death!
Wow.
Oh. So he has lives, thankfully, because that would be incredibly unfortunate to take a game over at that point. So very, very scary. But he should still be okay. I think Fasta needs a little bit more. But I don't think he's going to get it, unfortunately. So it almost looks like they're in the same fight right now, but since sort of backwards on their refights, Fatso's still got a pretty sizable lead.
Did we talk about how bosses are weak to their own weapon?
Yeah, I just did, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the other thing that Fatso has to remember now is he doesn't have any top. Now typically this would be an issue because usually spin on Gamma's final form, but Fatso is a pretty talented masher, and so we'll likely just see him not worry about it and finish off the final form of Gamma with Snake. There's a couple quick kills basically coming up here, where he's gonna shoot just at the right timing. He's gonna jump up after taking damage and just mash snakes into the hitbox. You can make this kill easier by shooting a couple snakes early to lag the game. But Fatso, he's notorious for having good mashing, although it failed him there, and he doesn't quite finish him off.
That is a brutally hard strat.
It is. It's hard to do in one jump without lagging the game. So yeah, that's pretty impressive. Even to get that close. Oh, you know, we actually just had somebody finish.
Yep. So our first place finisher happened to not be on stream, so it'd be Prissy finishing first, 34:43. A really solid time. Actually,
That's a great
that used
time.
to be his best race time ever. So there you go.
Yeah, that's a really good time. Fatso right on his heels here. Looks like he'll be taking second pretty handily. Here's that snake kill I talked about. Just coil up and dead. So GG.
Excellent. Congratulations to Fatso, finishing in a solid second place and overall first in our featured 4 players. That was a really good race by Fatso.
Yeah, and Fasta's right behind him here. We're seeing these guys, Ramses taking a slightly safer fight where he's trying to avoid more damage, but not getting up close to the eyeball means you're not going to be able to one cycle the Yellow Devil, but still gets a pretty decent amount of hits in, so he should be able to kill Yellow Devil hopefully here on the second pass, and there it is, yeah. Yeah, the kind of unfortunate. I mean, like that death in the Wily 2 for Fasta, I think, is what cost him between him and Fatso for sure. Because that definitely cost him more than 30 seconds, and he only lost by 30. So we're gonna see Joe's going for the easy kill, so he's going for the setup. See how his mashing is. Ooh, doesn't quite hold A long enough, unfortunately, so doesn't get as many hits in as he first jump. Going for an E-tank just to play it safe. Not a bad idea. Not gonna pick up any time there. Ramses, unfortunately. Oof, and there it is. See if Ramses gets the coil transfer. There it goes. So nicely done. It is a little tricky to do that transfer with one bullet. You have to pause like super fast so that the bullet is in his hitbox for the maximum amount of time. But if you aren't comfortable going for that, you can always shoot the second bullet like he did, and that pretty much guarantees that you'll kill Holograph Mega Man.
Kind of curious to see how Ramses tackles the refights. You know, I've been watching a couple of the other competitors that were learning the game, and they seem to kind of be doing like their own routes based on like ease of difficulty, which makes a lot of sense. So
yeah, yeah. Depending on, you know, like for most casual playthroughs, I would typically consider, okay, what are my hard fights? I'm gonna save those fights for when I have full health. You know, it's like, okay, this one's easy. Let's go do this one. Get the health from there, and it's like just an easier way. You might obviously gain some more time, unfortunately, due to movement through the room, the capsule room. But since the menu loads so fast in this game, it's not a huge deal, really. So Monkey actually finished in the race as well.
excellent.
Low 38.
So yeah, we are going to
Also
be
raced last night too.
we are going to be putting up some more runners now. That our featured runners are starting to finish. So we got Bro Edge Man on the top right.
Cool.
I'm gonna get another one up fairly shortly.
Yeah, I would guess that the majority of the runners are probably out of 8 robots now, or very close to.
Yeah.
If they put in any of the work through the week. The 8 robot stages in this game are actually pretty reasonable, difficulty-wise. It's the dock stages that really just amplify the difficulty. Like, this is the part of the game that most people really struggled with in their first time.
So we have Argic on the top left. I know he's been entering a lot of our races, so curious to see how he does.
So just playing it safe, I guess, looking to use those. I mean, you got to pick those. If you're picking up those E-tanks, you might as well... Point. I see far too many runners go and pick up a bunch of E-tanks and never actually use them, and it's always heartbreaking to watch the deaths.
Absolutely. Especially in the Wily stages. Like, once you're into the Wily stages, there's just, like, so much opportunity to... Oh, look what happened on St. Joe's screen. I want to talk about that. Tell me. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't.
He had the... he killed top with the
pose?
hard off. Yeah, with the post.
Yes. So if you don't actually let the hard knuckle spawn and you fire it directly into the hitbox of whatever you're shooting, you'll sort of get, like, frozen for a little bit. Sort of like a weird delay thing, and it's not a big deal typically when that happens. Like, you don't have to worry about it too much. The only time that it sort of becomes an issue is, let's say you ran out of magnets and you finished Hardman with Hardman's weapon. If you fire and kill him when he hits the ground and freezes things, that's one way to soft lock the game, like we mentioned. So it's like Argic is having some issues, and he's trying to farm health right now because he knows he's coming up to Woodman. One of the harder, again, dock robots in this game. A few more people finishing, Badap with a 39, and JD with a 40, and Polari with a 40. So really close here now for Ramses. He looks like he's coming into his final stage, and Joe's really not that far behind. He's just got the last 2 fights yet.
Yeah, it's a really solid race between the two. You know, coming into it, Ramses obviously had the better PB by about 4 to 5 minutes, but honestly, this is going to be, what, maybe 40, 45 seconds between the two?
Yeah. Yeah, it's I want to say it's about... Yeah, probably about that, because the first quick kill that you're seeing Joe do right now is about a 35-ish second split. There you're seeing that's the Mega Man 3 kill. He had to use the rush coil glitch with top spin bullets, since you can't hold your iframes through a menu. So if you try to do the strat you do in Rockman 3 on Mega Man 3, when you menu to top, you'll just get hit and fall down to the ground. You can't actually spin.
So we have a finish from Ramses with a time of 41:54. That is, I believe, a PB for him. So congratulations to Ramses.
Yeah, nice job.
And St. Joe's going to be coming up right behind him. This is definitely a PB for Joe. He's killing his time.
Yeah, thankfully Gamma, his weaknesses are pretty convenient. Honestly. Like Shadow Blade being his first phase weakness is really nice because you can just stand underneath and throw them directly up. Oh, so Joe is on Mega Man 3. So there you can see he came out of the menu and got immediately hit. So you can't do the Rockman 3 strat that he was just trying. He only shot 1 bullet, so unfortunately he's going to have to do the glitch again.
There we go.
But there's the end.
So a 43:10 for race spot time. So excellent. That is, I mean, that's a solid PB. According to, it looks like it splits up on his feed, so it looks like a PB by about 2 minutes-ish. So
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like in a week's time, that's pretty good. Mega Man games are very different, especially if you don't have previous experience in one. Platforming and everything in these games is typically pretty challenging. And especially when you want to go faster and start sliding more, that's just not a way that most people play these games. So, and getting adjusted to the weapons also. I know, like when I first started playing, using weapons was so foreign to me because I practically used Buster all the time except for boss fights. So just like getting adjusted to a Mega Man game can be quite challenging.
All right, so we're putting up some more streams. We have Pika Pals, I believe, on the bottom left. Let me make sure I am reading that right. Yes, that is correct. So what are your thoughts been on some of our, obviously we had a good solid race between our top competitors. What do you like or don't like out of what you've seen out of the inexperienced competitors so far, Sheldon?
I like that a lot of them have, you can tell that some of them have tried some of the more difficult strats, but a lot of them have clearly put in effort to find what works for them. Like they've decided, okay, this is not something that I'm going to be capable of doing in 1 week's time with a lot more practice. So let's find something I am capable of. That's clearly been notable in some of these guys' play. So probably that the most.
Cool. I agree. I've been very impressed with what I've been seeing.
I think a lot of people have, I mean, not everybody's played this game, but like the Mega Man games are pretty popular and most people have given them a play at some point or another. So for anybody that's played it casually, they're going to have some kind of like backup strat in their head too for some of the stuff just from just their memories of beating it when they were younger or whatever. But not everybody has that again too. So some of that can be an advantage, almost like they were practicing prior to ever preparing. Also, being familiar with the Mega Man 2 robots can be helpful with the dock stages, right? I mean, their patterns are basically the same.
Yep.
And you have a slight advantage now being able to slide. So, like, for example, some of those airman patterns, you can actually dodge some of those air patterns by sliding under the tornadoes, which is kind of nice. So, if you can get adjusted to the slide, that's a huge advantage. Looks like we got another finish there at the top right.
Oh, excellent. Missed that one.
It's a pretty decent amount of players all finishing now around this time. Between like the 43-minute mark and the 45-minute mark, we've seen about 4 or 5 people finish. So they're all starting to come in now, which is great. Argic is still back in his dock stages, but again, like this is the hard part of the game. If he can get through these stages, then the Wily stages are not too terrible. Pika doesn't quite get enough snakes into Wily, so is finishing it off with Shadow Blade. Shadow Blade does do 2 damage, so it's again pretty nice because you can throw it directly up and not have to be out of position. Yeah, going into the final fight. Sonic here on the bottom right, he's going into his first Wily 1 boss here, the Kamigoro Maker. That block that you actually see in the middle of that room there where we picked up the ammo, that's one of the differences between Mega Man 3 and Rockman 3. He's on Rockman 3 because those blocks are there. In Mega Man 3, they actually moved that entire platform out of the way to the top right corner of the screen because if you die in a very specific way on Kamigoro Maker, you actually do soft lock in that block while you teleport in. So it was sort of a little thing that they had to fix between Japanese release and US release. Sort of the pros and cons, I guess, to playing a game before, DLC or updates were a thing. For a speedrunner, it can be very advantageous to not allow the devs access to the game anymore once it's released. But for a casual perspective, it'd be really unfortunate to get all that way and then soft lock. But thank goodness there's passwords. So
Absolutely.
Passwords are nice.
So,
about half
no,
of our
go
people have
ahead,
finished.
Bonnie. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I think like half of our people have finished, so people are doing quite well. More people are practiced on this game than I expected, actually. So glad to see people really took it up.
Yeah, I remember reading kind of the Discord. I didn't see too much activity, so
Mhm.
I
Yeah, I think
Seems
people
like
were
people
scared.
were, yeah, I think people were kind of like just practicing on their own. Some of our other games like Chameleon Twist are obviously like lesser known, so people may not be as familiar, or they're just there's not a lot of resources out there, right, for the game. But like a game like a Mega Man 3, it's very straightforward.
Mhm.
So you find it less likely for people to kind of like need to ask for help. So I think as a
Right.
result, you just don't really see as much going on in the Discord.
Yeah, as hard as it is, learning it actually isn't too bad in terms of research and whatnot. So I agree. That's a good point.
And the community is really good. Like if you need help with something, there's like 8 people like getting ready to like make you a video pretty much. Like it's
Nice.
really handy. So
That's good.
I think that's like it's good for the Mega Man community, but I mean I think just speedrunning in general, it's a pretty decent community in general for like getting help with stuff. I usually everybody's pretty open and just happy to see someone else like playing their game, right? So
Hmm. Yeah, well, there you go. If anyone watching wants to learn a Mega Man game, there's your invite right there.
yep. Yeah, this is a good starting game, I think. A lot of people like Mega Man 2, so they start there. But I like the aspect of 3 more than 2 because of the slide. The slide just adds a whole nother, variable, um, and I think it's just a lot more fun. Like as opposed to holding right and walking, you actually are actively doing stuff and pressing and timing your slides, and it's much more enjoyable. So Sonic actually getting 3 cycles so far. He's actually doing at the style of fight he's going for here. It might have actually been better to go for a hard knuckle kill. Um, Sort of taking his time, jumping from the side out in the middle of the room to shoot single shadow blades it's a little bit slower, but
I'm a little bit sad that I didn't see any hard knuckle action on Yellow Devil. I'm not gonna lie. Come on, Chun-Li, admit it. You know you wanted to see it.
hopefully he can get this. He should get it here. Getting 5 cycles is pretty rough, but a couple of those cycles are not too bad. Like the 3rd and 5th cycles from Yellow Devil are actually fast because he sort of like doesn't form like like the standard style. So it's kind of a neat little difference, but seeing another Wily machine fight here from Kato. So machine didn't actually go down for him to start shooting because he didn't kill the first. So he's switching to jet now and doing it the sort of standard casual way.
I think our bottom left competitor got mad and is taking a break. It's the only thing I can think of. It's understandable. Like I said,
mentally regroup.
Doc Air is a very difficult stage. I feel like I remember when I was learning the game first. Unfortunately, RG on top left takes a death. I remember when I was first learning the game, Doc Air just gave me fits because like even one little thing goes wrong and all of a sudden you're just out of health, and it's just a huge time loss. Pretty much like anywhere you die in the stage. So
Yeah. Yeah. There's all those needle presses early on, and they can deal a lot of damage, and you can get to Airman with very makes it a little bit more difficult. Trying to despawn these bees this time. He had a lot of those little bees chasing him, and that was also not helping. So he's he's got a few anyway, so he's not killing any of the bees, dude. You gotta kill the bees. Oh,
not
he's gonna
the
take another death
bees.
here, I think.
He likes the challenge.
He's gotta get out of there.
See how much lag you can possibly create while still playing the game.
Yeah, apparently. And there it is. They will hunt you down ruthlessly. And again, no checkpoint in this stage, so back to the start. So Kato's finished. That's 19 of our runners are complete now.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think we had like were there 29 or 30 in this race. We had close to 40 across both races, so that's a good showing. Probably our second biggest after Mario 1, so it's good.
Yeah, it's kind of to be expected. I feel
Mhm.
like when we had this going on. It's been a solid race. I've enjoyed what I've seen out of the competitors. Hopefully, well, Supersonic died.
Sonic got stomped, yeah.
Did we talk about the fact that you can despawn Rush Jet, by the way?
Not really. It's a pretty minor thing. But like, you can't open the menu while you're sliding. But if you have like Rush out on the screen, you can cancel Rush by like pressing start while sliding, and it'll actually just like essentially it will delete him. He'll just instantly be gone. So it can be kind of nice for reducing some lag again, but it's not a big factor typically. It's just some minor lag reduction.
Yeah, it's just that I just love this game. There's a lot of like little quirks like that to it. It make it such a nice speedrunning game. You know, it's like Chelney said at the beginning. There's not a lot of zips, you know, or just really like one. But it's just really very technical, and I enjoy that a lot about speedruns.
So there's a good example. Argic didn't really either pay attention to his health or didn't realize how much he did, taking a death, and he had 4 E-tanks, so kind of unfortunate there. That's sort of where practice comes up too. Like knowing how much damage things are going to deal to you is pretty important. That way you know it's like, okay, I can take a hit here. No, I can't take a hit here. And that's obviously run. It affects your run so much if you're going to be in a boss scenario where you're not sure if you can survive or not. Like that's not a good thing. So kind of an unfortunate death there. And again, no checkpoint, so all the way back to the beginning. That's sort of why the game sort of throws E-tanks at you, I think, in Wily 1 and 2. Like, they give you 2 in this stage, they give you 1 in the first stage. Like, they're kind of saying, hey, look, here you go. Good luck.
Oh my goodness, double Gemini on screen, the ultimate.
Warp us to a new land. Oh, no.
This is so heartbreaking.
So you can actually make Gemini jump into a laser if it's going right above his head. By hitting B, you force Gemini to jump. I don't know if he maybe didn't know, but there was one there where he probably could have made him jump into the laser. See how his needle fight goes here. Oh, the headbutt juked him. Uh-oh. That should come around, right? Nope, maybe not.
What?
He didn't jump, he headbutted again.
Get
him, boy!
Oh,
Okay.
yes. The bank shot. The classic.
Yeah, Gemini Laser can be really... It's a great weapon until you miss.
Yeah. Like D-Well did on the bottom left. That's okay, it banked.
Ooh, nice. Get to see the trick shots. We're actually seeing Spark Shot on Magnet. That's what most people know Magnet's weakness to be. But we saw most of the runners use Shadow Blade. It does the same amount of damage, and you can throw Shadow Blades upward in case Magnet jumps. So it's just the obvious choice for a weapon to use. Spark giving Sonic a hard time here.
Kev must be really happy right now, you know, seeing all these dual lasers on screen.
What's the lore for that one? I gotta know.
Ooh, it's a good. It's a very old race that happened at I want to say like 2012, 11, something like that. Yeah, this is old lore. The duo is a beloved classic Mega Man player. He plays Mega Man 2, well, he used to at least. They were racing Mega Man 3, and well, unfortunately, he fired a laser. It missed its target, and I believe he subsequently died as a result of that. And he proceeded to forfeit the race.
All right.
So yeah, you can see why.
But he will tell you he's never missed a laser in his life.
That's right.
Except for that one time. That never happened.
No, it never happened. He forfeited after all.
Yeah. So. Nobody will let him forget it. He tries very hard whenever somebody else misses one to try to rename it, but nobody's buying it.
Asha's making people remember it even more if he tries to rename it.
It is.
Pretty much.
I think he'd be a little disappointed if he lost his name to that. I'm not gonna lie. It's a legacy at this point. So a lot of these guys going through their final fights, going through their refights, are getting close to his refights, going through these last sort of moving platform rooms before the holograph Mega Man. Sonic's into his final fight with Gamma, so yeah, these guys are all coming in around probably the hour mark, maybe hour 10 mark, which is not too terrible. I mean, again, this is a hard game, and with only a week to learn, it can be, you know, depending on how much time you actually had to put into it, it could be really hard to get to a level where you'd be, you know, comparable to a lot of the other runners who've had, you know, months. So
Oh, I like these alternate strats here by Supersonic. Going on the right side.
it's trying to go up on the right side, yeah. Oh, watch out for the fist. There it is. Rush doesn't care about the fist, though. So he's just going to take the hit and go through with top, and
Easy.
health got a little low there, but he's finished.
Alright, well, with Faster Supersonic finishing up, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. So it's been a fantastic race for this week with Mega Man 3. We have 20 finishers in so far, about 6 or 7 more competitors to go. But just want to say thank you very much, Shelly, for giving us some excellent commentary for this week. It was a pleasure.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. But you know, this was Mega Man 3. Of course, we have a 9-week season, and we have next week, week 6 coming up, and that means you get to see what the next game is. So, Bonnie, I believe
I'm
we have a
excited.
video.
Yep, this is one of my favorites of the whole season, so I'm excited to show it off.
3, 2, 1, go.
Alright, we got a game in a series with virtually no speedrunning community at all, but happens to be a great speedrun. We got Wipeout XL, which is Wipeout 2, basically. For big F-Zero fans, it's kind of the same type of thing. It's a very simple game to learn how to play, but it is extremely, extremely hard to play well. So I think it's going to be a good contrast from a lot of the other games we've seen. You know, you pick up mechanics very quickly. It's just a matter of not hitting walls and not slowing down. And it's very straightforward, but very hard. I think next week is going to be a really tight race because, you know, there aren't really strats to learn. It's just a matter of optimizing your fast gameplay as much as you can. And we're going to have a very close race, and it's going to be hard to predict who's even going to do well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this one when we were talking about the game selection, and then we ended up making this a game. It's going to be exciting. You know, I'm not going to expect to see a particular person, like Boney was saying, that I think, oh, wow, yeah, that guy's definitely going to be in first place. I'd be curious to see, like, what little things happen, you know, that people, like, kind of, like, optimize with the game. It's like Boney said. I expect most people to be able to finish fairly easily. But we'll see who is able to kind of, you know, just make those little optimizations to finish faster than the other person. But yeah, so that pretty much is going to wrap it up for Season 2 for this week. It was an exciting Mega Man 3 race. And I'm looking forward to seeing what we're going to have for next week. And Wipeout.
Wipeout!
Wipeout!
I'm excited, man.
Boney, if you don't mind just recapping Season 2 for us.
Sure. So, yep, this is a 9 weeks. 9 weeks. Nice grammar. This is a 9-week-long game series. Every single player who wants to get involved will basically have a week to learn the game. We'll end the week by revealing the next week's game, and they have just a week to prepare as much as they possibly can for the races the following week. And it just continues in a 9-week pattern. We're in our 6th of... Well, this is the 5th. Next week will be the 6th of the 9 weeks. And after that, we'll have a final bracket with the best overall players. That's all I got.
No, that was perfect. All right, just looking around for a bit. Recap real quick, just some couple announcements. We have the SGDQ game schedule. I hear some people are interested in that. That's coming out. When you ask? Well, that's going to be coming out tonight. So it should be later tonight. Late night, don't expect it to be anytime early. So late night, you know, talking about Pacific time zone. So if you have to be up early in the morning, I wouldn't recommend you stay up, but if that's your thing, go for it. We also have the volunteer schedule. I'll be posted next week, April 30th. And also letting everybody know we have prize submissions. Everybody's favorite prize man is curating your submissions. So if you're interested in donating a prize to SGDQ 2018, we have those open until June 10th. You can check out our website, gamesdonequick.com, for more information on that. There's a prize submission guide, tells you everything you need to know. So yeah, that is pretty much going to wrap it up for us. I'm just trying to see where to send you all. You know what? We got, let's see what we got here. Oh, that's not going to work out. We have let's send you guys over to our good pals over at Speed Gaming. They have a Ori in the Blind Forest All Skills Tournament. I believe this is the grand finals. So there you go. Perfect. Can't ask for anything more. Exciting. I love Ori. It's a great speed game. And that tournament has been pretty awesome. They got some awesome production values. So I want you guys to check it out, watch the grand finals, have some fun. Let's put this here in the message and give them a good old raid. All right, there we go. So there you go. There is the link. Go ahead, rate Speed Gaming. Give them all hi from GDQ, and good luck. Wish good luck to our fellow Ori competitors. So yeah, without further ado, that's going to wrap it up for us. Thank you once again for watching this edition of Hotfix SpeedRunsLive Season 2, Week 5, which was Mega Man 3. So I am Darkman78, and joining me this week was Boney and Shelmy. So thank you very much. We'll see you next week.